Hello, I am so excited to talk about alcohol clearance today. We're going to be covering some really amazing, unique topics that I don't know if you know about. So let me share my screen as we go over today's interesting topic of handling alcohol. Hi, I'm Dr. Emily Hecker, and we are going to be covering handling alcohol. 4 concepts to master when you drink. Hi, I'm Dr. Emily. I'm a chiropractic functional medicine doctor in St. Louis, and I love talking nerdy stuff. I love talking anything and everything fat loss, keto, fasting, histamine intolerance, which we'll be covering today, histamine intolerance, MTHFR, infertility, and today we'll talk alcohol clearance because you know what? It's all connected when we look at this. So I invite you, if you're not already, to join my keto fasting and functional medicine Facebook group. It's a group, not a page. So if you want to interact, bring in some conversation, get some ideas, reach out to other people, you can go in there and I'll put that link in there. So I welcome you to that. I also love to talk. I love to share my knowledge. And so these are just a few of the podcasts that I have been interviewed on as a guest, discussing different topics, specifically fasting. MTHFR is a big one. That's really one of my niche, histamine intolerance. So you'll see this if you want to listen more. This is on my website on Enlighten STL. So let's start off here with a story. I love story time. And this goes back about 10 years ago, about a decade ago, to my secret to tolerating endless margaritas. So this is my most frequented blog on my website. And this goes back to a girls' weekend when I went back after college and I hung out with my 4 girls from college. And I discovered that during this process of hanging out with my ladies, I was supporting my body so well that I was wasting money on margaritas. Now, I'm not someone who likes to drink a lot, but occasionally a little bit of buzz, a little bit of downplay, a little bit of sedative. I'm doing a course on course on medicinal plants. Alcohol can be relaxing, right? And so we want to enjoy that when we're going to be using that as a source of social or just to help calm things down. I'm not a huge proponent on lots of alcohol consumption. So this whole presentation today is not about let's drink a lot of alcohol, folks. It's about if we're going to drink some, how are we going to handle it? All right. So this goes back to this this blog that I had where I was spending money and I couldn't even feel the alcohol because I was processing it so well in my body. Whoa, interesting concept. So I'm taking some key points of this experience that I had about 10 years ago and bringing it today with some more upgraded insight into some genetics. We're going to get into some detailed stuff today, but hopefully just some big concepts that you can pull out too and know as well. So the 4 concepts to master when you are drinking. The first one is methylation and B vitamins. We have to understand what that is. Well, when we're going to be drinking, how is that going to impact our body? Because that's the first thing we're going to want to support is our methylation process, really methylation and our B vitamins. B vitamins help that. So when we think about methylation, you may have heard about methylation, you may have not. Methylation is a process in the body where we have this chemical reaction and we move on to the next step. Okay, it's like a big player of connect the dots. We want to connect the dot to the next step, to the next part in the body. And one of the biggest things that when we drink is that we want to make sure that we are cleaning the blood. Or maybe not thinking that, but the liver needs to clean the blood. We know typically, I think we associate liver and alcohol. Alcohol affects your liver. Well, this is how it affects the liver. So the liver is a massive organ that can regenerate, but we need to make sure that it's cleansing all of the blood in our body and taking all the toxins out. Alcohol is a toxin. It produces ethanol. We need to get that out of the body. So we put a high demand on our liver when we decide to drink either a glass of wine, a cocktail, whatever it might be, beer. So we need to make sure that we're cleaning things out because we don't want to become too toxic. That's what alcohol is. It's making us a little toxic, and we're feeling and reaping the results off of that. So we need to clean the blood when it comes to methylation. Now, this is a in-depth biochemical pathway, okay, of taken from Seeking Health. Dr. Ben Lynch is an amazing practitioner that consolidates all this information into some biochemical pathways. And this is a big picture view on the pathway planners. When we bring in folate, when we bring in food in our body, especially leafy greens, we have to follow this process. We follow the process. We go down at the very top there at FOLR2. We go to the folate receptors. We have to go down. We go through the MTHFR enzyme, which you may have heard of that gene before. It's more popular. And then we move on. We move along through this whole process. A lot of bubbles on this sheet, lots of detailed stuff here. I'm not going to get into the details, but there's a lot going on here. And the big takeaway is that we need to process this because the majority of this happens, 80% of this happens in the liver, and this cleanses our blood. It gets the toxins out. It brings the right nutrients in, and we need to focus on what can we do to make this process work better. If we're going to be toxinating ourselves, how can we make the toxins get out better? So this one particular, going back to the big picture here, we're going to focus on this first kind of section, the first, this area right here. We're going to look at this called the folate pathway. This folate pathway, there's some cofactors needed. Cofactors are like little ingredients. If you're going to shake and sprinkle it in, you're going to make, say, maybe some cupcakes. You need to make sure you put the eggs in, make sure you put a little bit of the oil in, put the water in, put the mix in, and we're going to stir it all up. We need to bring one ingredient at a time to make sure we go through each step. Now, some of the things here that are needed in this first folate pathway, if we're going to process alcohol, is going to be these B vitamins. We need B12, B9, B3, B2. These are all the same thing. B12 is cobalamin, B9 is folate. This is what it's known as. But all of these B vitamins are necessary as little green cofactors to move through the next step. If we're going to connect the dots, we got to sprinkle in the ingredients to move to the next step. So when we move on, we're going to see these little cofactors here, which are the B vitamins. These are really important things to do. And we actually end up making a thing called methylfolate. Methylfolate can be taken in supplement form, but we also make it in our bodies. We need to make sure we have that from leafy greens. So if you're not eating leafy greens, might be something to do the day before you consume some alcohol or the day of. Not only leafy greens, because I think we need a little more substance in our digestive tract when we drink, but make sure you get those leafy greens in. And when you absorb a leafy green, make sure you get some good healthy olive oil on there. Any oils, that's why we put salad dressing on a salad, is because the oils mixed with the greens is going to absorb better into our bodies. We're going to make use of those vitamins that we're taking through eating our food. So first step is we need to make sure we're getting good B vitamins in. This particular picture right here moves through the pathway. We have the folate, and then we move on to this next step. It's again, connect the dots, move on to the next layer. This little thing has to move just like a wheel. It spins, and this is cobalamin. Remember what cobalamin is over here? B12. We need to have B12. It makes it, and we need to have B12 in our diet for this to turn the wheel, to crank that baby up. You know where we get B12 from? Meat, animals. We need to make sure we're eating meat. We're not vegans. And if you are a vegan, make sure you're properly supplementing with the right form of B vitamins. So this is the first step in the first process along the methylation panel and pathway, is to get that in. Now we're talking about B vitamins here and methylation for the first step, the first concept with processing and handling alcohol. Now, there are some things that deplete our natural B12 stores in our body. And there's a little bit more detailed process to get to B12 and convert it into the body. And it requires stomach acid and a right digestive tract. But if you are on any of these types of medications, anti-inflammatory medications, antibiotics that you see here, there are many, many more that are actually not on this list. This was taken from a local St. Louis Luke's Hospital website that they have as a handout to show that if you are taking any of these different things, they can impact the absorption of B12 in your body. Also, there's a lot more out there, man. If you're on any medications, I suggest you go there and really see if it's going to be depleting your B12 stores. So one of the things and the solutions I like to suggest to you, if you're going to be knowing, okay, there's 4 concepts I need to know about drinking. Well, one thing is you probably want to get some B complex in. All right, this is my favorite B complex. Why? Because Seeking Health, Dr. Ben Lynch, he's done a lot of research into making these genetic reports that layer your report on top of the biochemical pathways, which is pretty darn cool. He makes the supplements too, and he formulates them correctly. So this B complex is a very famous one in my practice. You can ask a lot of my patients are on this one. It helps support the liver. If someone has high homocysteine, which is a measurement in blood marker, if that number is pretty high, it's an indication that we can have inflammation, cardiovascular risks for clotting. Bad news. So we don't want that high. So we want to get that low. How do we get it low? B vitamins. So B vitamins, there's a lot of medications, especially birth control. Ladies, if you're on birth control or any estrogens, that can also rob the body of B vitamins. So we need to make sure we're replenishing those suckers. This helps clear toxins, and you got to get the right form and the right dose of them. So the right form, what does that even mean? Well, there's a lot of B vitamins out there. We talked about cobalamin, which is the form for B12. There's a prefix to that called methylcobalamin or adenosylcobalamin or hydroxycobalamin. Whoa, there's lots of different forms. I have a quick YouTube on this about the different forms of B vitamins. You can go on my YouTube channel, Enlightened Functional Medicine, and see my little quick shorts on that. But we want to get the right form. This is a methylated B complex, a methylcobalamin. It also has the right form of B9. Same thing, guys. We got to make sure we're on the right folate when it comes to looking at B9. We got to make sure we're not taking the folic acid form, the man-made form, but the real form that we're supposed to be getting in our body. If we can't make it by eating food and converting it with our own genetics, because your genetics are just not that great, 50% of us have issues with our genetics, then we might want to just take that in a supplement form. And the right dose. So we have to have the right ratio of nutrients to nutrients, because if you're taking a B complex with massive amounts of folate in it and little tiny doses of maybe like a B12 with it, you might feel crappy. And here you are just trying to push your pathways, trying to drink a little glass of wine, and you feel even crappier or more anxious. So we got to make sure we're getting the right dose, the right ratio of this. So that's why I like this. He's formulated it really nicely. So that's our first step here. Step number 2, concept number 2, I should say, is let's understand molybdenum and how that plays into when we drink. Why should we be even talking about molybdenum? First off, can you even say molybdenum? I had my office manager work with me. She could never say molybdenum. It's hard to say when there's a D and a B together. But when you practice, you'll get it. Trust me. You'll sound really smart with your friends next time you're drinking and you say, here, we need molybdenum, folks. Let's talk about molybdenum. It is a mineral. It's actually a pretty cheaply sourced mineral that you can take, and we're supposed to have, and I'll show you the pathway here in just a minute of how this helps clear the body of alcohol. But this is a little interesting tip that you can ask, or maybe you know someone that gets real red in the cheeks when they drink alcohol. They're not processing it very well, specifically sulfites and sulfur in there, and possibly some histamines, and it's really, really building up, and it's hard for them to clear that. So molybdenum actually helps go in there and clear that out with it. So it opens up the end of the detox pathways. Now, when we think about that big pathway, this big old pathway, we start up here at the top. We talked about opening this up at the first one, right? With the B vitamins, got to get the B complex in here to open up these pathways to get them in. But guess what? It ain't going anywhere if you can't get it out of your body. The big old root here is we have to go down to this level, this transsulfuration pathway, which means detox, get it out of the body, and here we urinate it out. All right, so that's the end of the pathway. So we're going to focus a little bit on the end of the pathway today. So the transsulfuration pathway, lots of genes here, lots of genetics, lots of cofactors in green, the little things you sprinkle in to make things work, to move them along. Well, there's one particular one that I like to focus on, that this is the reason why molybdenum helps people if they're drinking alcohol, specifically lots of red wines. This can help process the sulfites out. Wines are pretty high in sulfites. So see that little, the red circle here? MB stands for molybdenum, and this is a cofactor needed as well as B1 to help push the SUOX gene to move things out and sulfate them out of the body. So this is where at the very end, we need the very beginning and the very end of the pathways that we need to open up and get things moving along. And we're gonna have to trust that everything in the middle is moving right. If it's not moving right, that's when you contact me and we have a consult and we see how can we clean things up in the middle. So that's the second one. Let's look at number 3, which is the third concept to master when you drink, which is hydration. We got to bring the right minerals in. We got to hydrate right. So this gets into some really interesting, man, if you had any chemistry before, or biochemistry, or just knowledge in this, we need to make sure that we're getting things from the extracellular fluid to the intracellular fluid. Let me tell you where we are in the body right here when we see these purple blobs on the picture. Well, this is actually going to be a open gate. This is a gate that gets the fluid from a cell, from the cellular level. From outside the cell would be blue. Inside of the cell is going to be that peachy color. So we need to get things from inside the cell and outside the cell. And this is where we need to hydrate. If we're going to drink water, if we're going to hydrate, we're going to bring things in. We have this thing called the sodium potassium pump. This allows the sodium and the potassium to move through to get the fluid in and out of the cell. So this is just a really great visualization of how we need these electrons from minerals. Sodium is salt, potassium is potassium. We need these things to get into the gates so the gates can open and close. If we don't have salt, if you are still on the mind frame of, man, I cannot eat salt, salt is killing me, salt is a bad name, we need to move on. We need to be educated in this. So we need salt. We're made of salt. This is something that it's super important, especially if you're on any type of antidepressants. There's lots of antidepressants out there that rob your body of salt. If you are dehydrated, if you're not hydrating water, if you're drinking too much water, you're probably going right through your body. You're not getting enough of it. I can go on forever on this topic, but I have to refrain myself. I love talking about hydration. But sodium and potassium is necessary to get this pump moving. All right. So that's the takeaway from this picture is we need to make sure that we're opening and closing it, getting the potassium in, getting the sodium out, moving things along. So in order for that to happen, when you drink, man, you're going to be going to the bathroom a lot. Usually it stimulates either the bladder or just in general, we need to hydrate the tissues because it is a toxin. We're toxinating our bodies, folks, so we need to get them out. So we need to make sure we're hydrating properly, getting the right electrolyte. These are two of my favorite ones in here. Seeking Health has some really great electrolytes that's formulated beautifully. It has taurine in there. Taurine is an amino acid that helps get these nutrients into the cell. It's like a little shuttle in there. This is also my favorite mineral complex there on the right. I like this one. If you do not have Hashimoto's, it has a little bit of iodine in there. It's going to have more minerals in here to help the nutrients get into the cell. We need that hydration piece. And I have some beautiful pictures of some mocktails. I think they call this a mocktini that you can make if you're thinking, okay, what can I drink? It's maybe summertime or maybe you're going on vacation. What can you do to hydrate better if you're going to drink? Well, maybe you have a little mocktail in between your drinks, folks. So this is what you can do. You can grab your electrolyte of choice that you love and know and feel good on. Make sure it's good in potassium. Make sure it's good in sodium. When I say sodium, oh my gosh, we need at least 2,000 milligrams of sodium a day, at least. Those of us active, over 5,000. So bring that in and make these little cocktails up that are no alcohol. That's going to hydrate in between drinking. And they look so pretty. Or maybe you're just not a drinker at all, or you know someone that you love does not drink. Make one of these for them. Right. So number 4, this is the fourth concept to master when you drink is we need some histamine support, folks. So this is a big deal when it comes to drinking. You may have heard of histamine intolerance. Maybe when you hear histamine, you think sneezing, allergies, fields of wheat, commercials where you're ready to grab a Kleenex box. Well, that's one area where histamine can impact us is our sinuses. It can get through our food and our drink big time. And I pulled this. This is one of my favorite journal articles. I pass this on to hundreds of people. It's a really nice journal from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition that is about a 10-page paper and really isolates in a nice table the different foods, how histamine intolerance works, but foods, that's what we're interested in, drinking, right? What are the biggest things to be concerned with? There's some things on here that are fish that are higher in histamines. Cheeses are higher in histamines, fermented meats. Think about a meat lover's pizza. Dog, you're going to have tomatoes, you're going to have cheese, you're going to have fermented meats. The only thing that's not high histamine in a meat lover's pizza is the gluten itself. And if you can't tolerate gluten, don't be eating that. Maybe it's cauliflower, right? Well, there's certain vegetables that are fermented. So anything that's fermented is going to create a histamine response. So think about alcohol. Alcohol's fermented. So these things that are down here are the higher level ones. The one that gets the highest rating is champagne. So maybe you're someone who only drinks champagne once a year. And guess what? You get red cheeks. You get a massive headache the next day. Why is that? Oh, it's because you have so many histamines in your body. And you can probably be eating maybe some pasta, some red sauce. Also can contribute to that as well. Tomatoes are big in histamines and vinegars. Anyway, these alcohols can really push the histamine load. So what do we do about that? Well, one, we can choose to drink the right type of alcohol. That if you are prone to having histamine issues, I grabbed this online from lowhistamineeats.com. Really great article on what alcohol should you grab. Well, do a tequila, do a rum, do a vodka or a gin. These are going to be things that have lower histamine levels in them. Avoid the beer, folks. Avoid the wine, and definitely avoid the champagne. Mimosas, no. Find another way to make those drinks. So if you're going to be drinking, fourth concept that you could bring in to help quench that histamine response is a histamine digest pill. So this is a form of an enzyme that we make in our bodies called DAO. Diamine oxidase is what it stands for. It helps gobble up the histamine when you consume it through eating or drinking. So DAO is going to be an enzyme that can help put a shunt to that. It's like a Pac-Man, gets in there and eats it away. So you can take this with the meal, with the drink, take one or after. You can bring these in at any time with this. So histamine control when we're drinking is one, grab a histamine enzyme. This is a great one by Seeking Health. Again, I think all my products that are mainly there's reduce high histamine foods, like I showed on that earlier graph. There's some things that if you're fermenting some things, avoid those. Ladies, if you're in a high estrogen state, whether you're PMSing, getting ready to have your period, or just constant high levels of estrogens, that's also going to make more histamines come up. You might have more hangovers. You might have more reactions. You might have just alcohol intolerance. Maybe you're super high stressed. That also can add to the histamine level. So this is not a histamine 101 just presentation here, because I can go big time into this. But if you're going to drink, be aware of the histamines that you're going to be releasing in the body and make sure you can control that. The last thing that I want to show you, this is really neat. If you haven't seen this Pure Wand by Pure Wine, it's a wine wand. This helps sop up sulfur and histamines in the body. And you can grab these things. They come in different forms. And I'm going to show you how this works here. This is neat to just keep in your purse, ladies. Go out, but it's like a little tea bag on a stick. And you can actually, it plumps up when you put it in the wine, for instance, and sop it up, move it around, and it's going to, they say here, this is what the website claims, that with stirring, it's going to remove over 50% of the histamines and sulfites from the wine after 8 minutes. As much as like 95% of them are gone. I invite you to try that. I don't sell these suckers. You can go online and get them yourself, but from drinkpurewine.com. Grab some and try it. People will love you. I think they'll either love you, I think you're annoying, and like sometimes I do, and I talk all health stuff, but I love it, right? This is what I love and I like to teach. So these are the 4 things that you can look at doing, and concepts to master when you're going to take that next drink is methylation and B vitamins. Bring in the liver support there, right? Molybdenum is going to help open up that bottom detox pathway. Minerals and hydration, just overall in general. Make sure you're hydrating when you're drinking, before, during, after. That's going to be super important for just every aspect of cellular regeneration. And the histamine support to help sop up those histamines, so you're not going to have a massive hangover that next day or even that night when you're not feeling that great. So those are the 4 concepts to master. I hope this was helpful for you guys. A few solutions for you if you want to join my Facebook group. It's called Keto Fasting and Functional Medicine. If you want to work one-on-one with me, book a discovery call. You can do it online. Just go online to enlightenstl.com and do a quick discovery call. We'll see if I'm a good fit for you. If you want to get a hold of us, you can text us here. You can email us. You can book an appointment. I have lots of ways to do it. If you need to get these products that I was talking about, go on my Full Script dispensary store. You can do it online on your phone. I just ordered some the other day on my phone because I was running low on my B vitamins. So you can do that online. I have a Full Script store here, and I actually have a whole chunk of these products in a protocol called Emily's Alcohol Clearance and Hangover Support. So you can go in there and see all the products that are in there and pick and choose which ones you want. If you want to go in there and shop around, feel free to do so. You get a discount as well. So how to make an appointment, you can go ahead and do that. I hope this was helpful for you. Thank you so much. Happy drinking, healthy drinking. Have a great day.